Brooklyn Guy tells his greatest stories when he's talking about his high school experience. Whether he's speaking about his classmates such as Dan the kidney donor.
He would walk around the halls asking everybody if they needed a kidney.
Or when he's bringing up moments such as when he had to pull a stick out of Mad Eyes McGee.
Pulled the stick out of his ass, but when it came out, it ruptured his colon and he had to get a colostomy bag.
His school stories always have so many memorable moments in them. But sometimes, Brooklyn Guy reveals a little bit too much information and he tells a completely embarrassing story on his behalf. I've put together 5 different stories that Brooklyn Guy has told, and we're going to be taking a look to see which one had the most embarrassing outcome. Let's begin. The first story we're going to be taking a look at is featured in an SML movie, Jeffy's Bowling Ball, where after Jeffy threw a bowling ball through Marvin's front door, they call an Officer Guy to come investigate.
I can only think of one man who would leave a bowling ball as a calling card. Who? Bobby Bowling Hands.
And in typical Brooklyn Guy fashion, he begins telling the tale of Bobby Bowling Hands, where we learn that Bobby was so heartbroken by the loss of his brother Billy, he cuts his own hands off during their woodshop class. Now with bowling ball hands like his brother, he vowed revenge against Brooklyn Guy for causing his brother's death. Now this is where the embarrassment starts, because one day Bobby asked Brooklyn Guy if he can wash his car, and of course Brooklyn Guy couldn't turn down that free offer. And what does Bobby do to his car? Well, take a look.
He dented my car all over and smashed the windshield. I was so mad, I just knew he did it on purpose.
Okay, so Brooklyn Guy killed his brother, and then Bobby destroyed his car in front of the whole school. Sounds like a fair trade, right? Well, now it's time for the school prom, where Brooklyn Guy pulls up in his all-white rented suit with his hot date. And Brooklyn Guy asked Bobby if he can grab him and his date a glass of punch. Now, keep in mind, Bobby has bowling balls for hands, and now has to grab a bowl of punch for Brooklyn Guy. So what happens? Well, let's take a look.
So he tried to grab the ladle to pour some punch into the cup, but his bowling ball hand smashed the bowl and made the punch spill all over my date and my rented white suit.
So there you have it. Not only did Bobby dent Brooklyn Guy's car, but he then proceeded to destroy his all-white rented suit, most definitely ending their night together and leaving Brooklyn Guy super embarrassed, making this the 5th most embarrassing story. This next embarrassing story is featured in SML movie, The Lego Competition, where we learn about the tale of Lester Lego. In the story, we're introduced to a brand new girlfriend of Brooklyn Guy, Lucy Lugo, who is Brooklyn Guy's soulmate.
Building Legos, and I would go over to her house all the time to build Legos with her.
So after the introduction to Lucy, we learn it's now her birthday, and Brooklyn Guy decided to go all out and buy her a brand new Lego set. Now, here's where the story takes a humiliating turn, because flash forward to school the next day, the teacher announces that there'll be a brand new student entering their class.
Then the teacher announced to the class that there was a new student, and his name was Lester Lego, the son of the founder of Legos.
Lester Lego is the newest student, and immediately he catches hard eyes for Brooklyn Guy's girlfriend. So what does he do? Well, while Brooklyn Guy is currently giving her the brand new Lego set for her birthday, Lester walks right up to her and pulls out an entire bouquet of Lego flowers. I mean, this also implies that Lester just randomly keeps flowers on him at all times, I guess in case something like this ever happens. But anyway, he gives out the Lego flowers to Lucy, and what does she do?
Right then and there, they started making out. I fell to my knees crying, holding out the Lego set I'd bought her.
Jeez, you can really argue that this might be the most humiliating Brooklyn Guy story, because not only did he lose his girl to a Lego character, but losing your girl to a Lego character in front of the entire class is the cherry on top. So what could have been Brooklyn Guy's future wife is now married to a guy who is built exactly like a Lego, making this the 4th most embarrassing story. If you thought those first 2 stories were bad, just wait until you hear about this one, featured in SML movie, Chef Jr., where Brooklyn Guy tells Junior about an incident at the school dance. And so the story begins, and we're introduced to Samantha Knobgobbler, who every guy wanted to take to the school dance.
Because word around the school was if you went on a date with her, she'd gobble your knob like corn on the cob.
Brooklyn Guy decided to be ahead of the curve and be the first guy to ask out Samantha, who surprisingly said yes. Now all happy and giddy, Brooklyn Guy runs out to buy a suit and he is now looking dapper. A little weird moment is on the way to the dance itself. Brooklyn Guy revealed that his mom was smoking in the car the entire time, so I'm guessing by the time they got to the dance itself, they probably reclaimed pure cigarettes. But that's not what makes the story embarrassing, because now it's time for the school dance to begin, and everyone's dancing, they're boogie-woogieing, they got food, and they even got Brooklyn Guy's favorite song playing.
You know, the song that goes ooh-ee, you know? Ooh-ah-ah. Don't forget the ting-tang, walla walla, end it with a bing-bang, you know that song?
But folks, this is where the story takes a tragic fold. Because after the witch doctor started playing, Brooklyn Guy decided to bust it down and start twerking, where, out of nowhere, he completely soils himself.
When I went to twerk, I did shit. My pants. It came out of nowhere.
Now at this point, Brooklyn Guy is completely screwed. At any second, the people at the dance are going to know what he did. But before that happens, Samantha runs up to Brooklyn Guy and asks him if he's ready for the old corn nobble. Where then Brooklyn Guy, whose pants are completely covered, needs to think of a quick excuse on why he can't leave the dance. And that excuse being...
So I said, no, I'm actually gay, sorry.
So our boy Brooklyn Guy not only dropped one in his pants, but then after he had to go on and tell his crush that he liked men instead of her. Which is going to cause a little bit of problems for Brooklyn Guy in the future when he wants to ask out another girl. And the beautiful cherry on top of all this is after Brooklyn Guy rejected Samantha's offer at the dance, she decided to leave the dance with no other than Billy Bowling Hands.
This was before he drowned. I'm sure his balls were like bowling balls.
Alright, we're getting closer to saying what the most embarrassing story is. But this one right here might be just as embarrassing, which is featured in SML movie Night Swim, where after Officer Guy realizes that Junior can't get out of his swimming pool, it reminds him of the time that he himself didn't want to get out of his swimming pool.
You know, this reminds me of a time I refused to get out of a pool.
You refused to get out of a pool?
Yeah, let me tell you about it.
And so the story begins where Brooklyn Guy reveals he was once on the swim team in high school, the girls swim team, because he was too slow to join the boys swim team.
I went up against the girls and I would still come in 4th place, but I swam slow for other reasons.
Anyway, it's now time for the big swim race, and after really trying hard to win, Brooklyn Guy's swim trunks end up slipping right off into the water.
I swam so fast my swim trunks came off and I couldn't find them.
All the girls finished the race and ended up leaving the pool, and now Brooklyn Guy is stuck having to find his swim trunks. It doesn't make matters better when the swim coach himself comes up to Brooklyn Guy and demands he get out of the pool.
But I didn't want to get out. I didn't want the girls' swim team to see my small shriveled up package.
Brooklyn Guy needs to think of a plan to distract everybody so no one notices he's full commando right now. And that's when he sees no other than Pulls the Fire Alarm Paul, who, if you dare him, he will pull the fire alarm no matter what.
And everyone started running outside, so I said, now's my chance. But then, 2 firefighters came and they pulled me out of the pool and took me outside with everyone else, and the whole school saw my little shriveled up shrimp.
I'm sure you can see now why this story is so far up the embarrassing list. The entire school had to see Brooklyn Guy's shriveled up shrimp, making this a forever memory for Brooklyn Guy, and a moment that was probably talked about for the rest of his time in high school. We made it. The most embarrassing story that Brooklyn Guy has ever told. And which video has that honor of holding the title? Well, that would be an SML movie, Brooklyn Guy's Big Fight, where we learn about the tale of Candy Randy. Where Randy, obviously by his name, was the kid who would sell candy to the students around the school.
Randy didn't like me, I can't imagine why, but usually he would only charge $1 for his candy.
So one day, Brooklyn Guy felt like buying some candy, and after hearing about the $2 charge, he said enough's enough, and he was going to stand up for himself and confront Randy.
He still wouldn't sell me the Skittles, so I did what any man would do, and I picked my nose and I wiped a booger on him.
Honestly, I personally wouldn't say wiping a booger on him would be my first choice of action, but to Brooklyn Guy, that was enough to put Randy in his place. This of course doesn't shut Randy up, and instead infuriates him, where he stands up and challenges Brooklyn Guy to a fight after school ends.
And said, okay, meet me after school by the flagpole, and me and you are gonna fight.
Panicking, he's now trying to think of escape plans, and even tried calling his mom to get out of school early, where unfortunately, she said ain't no way. So now it's time, the big school fight. And with any school fight, the entire school eventually hears about it, and they showed up.
And they were all chanting, Randy, Randy. And I was like, that's not fair. I can fight Randy. I got this. All he ever does is eat candy. I can take him.
Brooklyn Guy begins throwing those haymakers and unleashes Fist of Fury before Randy even gets the chance to swing. But it turns out that he missed every single shot, and then Randy decked him right in the face. Knocking out Brooklyn Guy in front of the whole school wasn't enough for Randy though, who then decided to rip off Brooklyn Guy's underwear tie it to the flagpole, and hoist it for everyone to see.
And then my underwear had a skid mark in it, so that was horrible. And then everybody started saying the Pledge of Allegiance to my underwear. I've never been so embarrassed in all my life.
So there you have it. From losing your girl to a Lego, to having the entire school pledge allegiance to your underwear, Broken Guy has an amazing catalog of embarrassing stories. If you liked the video, leave a thumbs up and let me know down below, as always, if you remember any more embarrassing stories that I might have missed. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next animation. Peace out.